and I meant every word I said in there. I really did. For me, it started with alignment, and maybe it's just, 30 years of going through this. Like, I'm just telling you, I'm not just saying it, guys. It's not like that every place where you have in my interactions coming to the conclusion to take the job, where you've got board president, AD, and everybody in lockstep. It was so obvious verbally, and it was so obvious through body language and non-verbally. That's number one by far. Then number two was just, and I mentioned I'd had so many like recollections of different coaches that had been here, kind of the development of Charleston from the NAIA national championship in the 80s, and then Coach Kress being here 20 plus years, and all of that. Then into Coach Kremens, I mentioned this, Coach Grant, obviously Kels, then Coach Mack, and all the good players and good so I've always had great respect for it as an unbelievable basketball place. But then when you really dive into it, and I talked about those people relative to the alignment, but just even today at the press con, I couldn't believe there were that many people in there. I mean, it's just awesome. The high care factor and the commitment for basketball is so obvious. I think the city, obviously speaks for itself. I mean, it's an incredible place to live. And then the college speaks for itself. The quality of the degree, what it means to get a degree from the College of Charleston, it's powerful. So when you put all that, and then the last part, which is really important, right? It's wife and kids. It's huge. We've been very blessed and had a lot of different opportunities together. Allie and I have been married since 2002. So, but this one is about, I mean, she was so excited, about the opportunity. And then my kids are too. And that really helps, because it's a total team. And when you're a family, you're like a team, and we're all moving here together, So I think the combinations of all those things made it the special place that we think it is, and I think generates that excitement for being here.
Retaining guys that are currently on the roster.
Yeah.
How important is it? How optimistic are you that you can get some of these guys to come back?
Andrew, I would say this. I think retention's huge. Let's start there. I think to be able for sustainability and consistency, it's really, really big. So I think it's a great question that you asked. The environment, you probably get tired of hearing it, has changed. It's a totally different landscape in terms of how this happens. I'm excited about the guys who are returning. I had the team meeting. I've got one-on-ones coming up, and we'll see where it goes. What I would tell you is, regardless, of whether it's retaining the guys who are here or it's anyone that we get in the portal or whatever, we want guys who want to be here. I said that in there. What do we need to do this, right? So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to honor the daily process, and here's your role in it. And it wasn't just for the people that were there at the press conference. It's the players. It's everybody that's involved. You got to have buy-in. So if you don't have buy-in and you're kind of lukewarm, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never seen anything accomplished worthwhile where someone's lukewarm. You got to be in, So we'll figure all that out. I'm super excited to get to know them better as people. Obviously, we've watched a lot of film, dissected all that, and looked at stats, right? The analytics, all that. But behind all those analytics, most importantly, is a person. So I'm anxious to get to know these guys better as people. Going into this, I really didn't. I'm anxious to talk to him and a few of those others I mentioned in there. I'm anxious to talk to them and get their, viewpoints on it. And then just to, connect with them, I think is a good thing too. Obviously, whether it's Chris, whether it's Kels, whether it's, Earl, Coach Kremens and Coach Kress, I believe, still live here in the area. So I'm anxious to get together with them as well. But anytime you get a chance to learn, they have what I refer to as corporate knowledge. I love to be able to get some of that because that helps our transition and gives us, I think, even more of an opportunity to be successful. And what better guys to tap into than those guys? I mean, that's and I do know all of them, fairly well. And so that'll be a good conversation that I'm looking forward to.
When this job opened up, was that something you were interested in right away, or did it take Matt calling you to kind of gauge if you'd be interested in coming down and leading Akron?
It was almost instantaneous. Yeah, just in terms of the interest level. I think both ways. That's when it's really cool, right? When you have mutually feel the same way.
How many times do you vacation here?
Oh, we'd have to ask. I don't know if Allie's in the back or not. It multiple.
And at the
M-
IOP or
Yes. Yeah. And then what we would do is, obviously she loved Charleston, so we'd always come in and eat. And a lot of times, Coach Williams would give us hey, here's where you need to go, to eat. We went to a place on our anniversary. Allie would have to get you the name of it. I'd give it to you I know one time he mentioned Magnolias. He just, he's obviously knows the area really, really well. I have great respect for him and Wanda.
you mentioned kind of your why and how. What can you expect about a style of play?
Yeah. It was interesting listening to Amanda, right? There's different ways to do it. She was talking about how, which makes sense, right? You're creating a system and style of play that fits your personnel. We're all sitting here like, that's logical, right? But I will tell you, we tend to recruit to a certain style now. We have characteristics we look for in certain position or positions if guys are multi-positional, and how we define talent within those areas of what we're looking for in terms of how it fits the style. And then we dive in after that once we establish, okay, they have what we're looking for stylistically. Now let's dive into characters. Who are they as a person? What's their background as a student? Then we start diving into that to see if it's a good cultural fit. But I would say this, obviously, typically, and we will continue to do this. We've played man-to-man defensively. We've been number 1 or number 2 in the league, I think, for 4 straight years. I think it was my second year. You'd have to look on Ken Palm to confirm this, but second or third year, we were like top 25 in the country in defensive efficiency rating. Now will we play different pick and roll coverages based on size and movement and mobility of our bigs, and how big are our perimeters? Are we really big? Then maybe we can switch more. Are we small at 1 and 2? Then maybe we don't want to switch as much. So I do think there's a little bit of what Amanda said in terms of fitting to, your personnel, but it's going to start with that emphasis of really good, sound, physical, loud, max effort, man-to-man, okay? Then on offense, we have coined the phrase, and we really believe in it, all gas, no brakes. Like, it's impossible for us to play too fast. If we can get the personnel to do that, certainly that's how we want to play. We average between 88 and 89 points a game. And again, you'd have to go to Ken Palm because I want to be accurate, maybe off a little bit, but we were top 30 or better ish in like assist rate, effective field goal percentage, 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, tempo in terms of speed out of 365 Division I teams. So that'll give you like an idea. When you look at that sheet, you're going to be like, yeah, that I see what the numbers will show that. Now, with that comes, I always tell them, with freedom, like anything else in life, comes great responsibility. So just because we play fast, that's not an excuse to throw the ball all over the gymnasium. We still want to have good ball security. Now, what I've learned is, as we've let them go more in this style over the last 2 to 3 years, we may turn it over. We may not be number 1 in the league, let's say, or number 2 in offensive turnover percentage like every year, like we were for years when we were controlling it more. Now we let them play more, faster, make more decisions. So you can have a few more, but I think we're still top 50. I think it was maybe an offensive turnover percentage out of 365 while playing that fast. There's an offensive rebounding emphasis for us, I think, and 3-point rates high. But yeah, that gives you a little bit of an idea. Yeah.
Scott Eisberg with Channel 4. For you, you're now coming from a 2-bid league, and you're going into
Yeah.
a 1-bid league, which it's always been a 1-bid league. Is there a party that gets nervous knowing that really your year comes down to 3-4 days in DC in March?
No, maybe when I was younger, maybe a little more, but I rest my head on the pillow pretty well at night, knowing how we work and prepare, and I feel very confident in our guys. It doesn't mean it always goes your way, but we we prepare certainly with that in mind. You know, obviously we were fortunate this year and great for that league, the MAC, because there was 2 bids, but that was the first time that had happened since the late 90s. So we understand how important the conference tournament is. You know, we do. We get that. I do think you've got to go into those things being physically loose, obviously mentally focused, right, on what you're supposed to execute. But, you know, I think part of it, too, is not taking yourself too seriously and playing with some aggressiveness and some physicality and letting her rip.
How much more attractive is this job because it's a basketball school and you don't have to worry about, football taking up a majority of the resources?
Yeah, well, I've obviously been at some great schools as an assistant coach, associate head coach, and head coach that find that balance and have phenomenal relationships with, you know, many of those football coaches, assistants, head coaches, or otherwise, have great respect for what they do. Do I think that's a strength of this particular job? Absolutely. I think it's a strength. You know, that it's more resource centric. You know, I think, you know, obviously that's kind of what I mean by the alluded to earlier about commitment and care factor for basketball. You know.
Some people might say this, I'm not saying I'm one of them, that this was a lateral move. What do you say to people who say that?
Well, you know, obviously people are entitled to their own opinion, first of all, right? You're never going to change that, you know. So they're more than happy to say whatever they want to say and do whatever they want to do. I always say the greatest gift God gave us is the gift to choose. Choose wisely, you know. So can't can really control that. From my viewpoint, I think it's a special place because of the things I said earlier. As I get older again, I care less and less and less about what other people think. I'm more concerned about, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing it the right way? Are we doing it that way every day? If we mess up and something doesn't go our way, do we take ownership of that? What do we learn from that so we can get better? That's really all I care about. These other stuff, the other things, you know, I can't control that. Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.